On the eve of the Senate vote, a former employee says she was sexually harassed by Clarence Thomas.
It is an unpleasant issue. It's an ugly issue. And people don't want to deal with it generally, and in particular in this case.
It's a charge that shook the Capitol today, but could it threaten Thomas's Supreme Court nomination? And is the timing of the accusation nothing more than politics?
This is ABC News Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from New York, Jeff Greenfield.
It doesn't happen often in Washington, but it may be happening tonight. In a city dominated by pseudo-events, photo opportunities, carefully staged, spontaneous demonstrations, and votes whose outcomes are known before the counting starts, it really isn't certain what is going to happen Tuesday night at 6 p.m. when the Senate votes on the Supreme Court nomination of Judge Clarence Thomas. After a day dominated by charges of sexual harassment against Thomas by former employee Anita Hill, a majority of senators still seemed certain to vote for confirmation. But that was before Nebraska Democrat James Exon withdrew his support of Thomas, and before Nevada Democrat Harry Reid said he was reconsidering his support as well. So we may actually have to wait for the vote to know whether Thomas will become the 106th Justice of the United States Supreme Court. What is certain is that there is anger all over the Capitol tonight. Thomas's supporters are furious over what they see as a last-minute political smear. Thomas's opponents can't believe that the Senate Judiciary Committee seems so indifferent to these accusations. What may be most depressing, the United States Senate will be deciding the future of the highest court in the land, immersed in last-minute wrangling over a charge that represents either a disabling character flaw or a vicious slander. Nightline's Jackie Judd charts this tumultuous day.
Backed by law students and co-workers at the University of Oklahoma, it was a poised Anita Hill who faced reporters and said it was she who was being unfairly attacked.
I resent the idea that people would blame the messenger for the message rather than looking at the content of the message itself.
The message that Clarence Thomas sexually harassed her over a 2-year period in the early 80s. First when he was her boss at the Department of Education and later at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Allegedly, Thomas repeatedly asked her out and graphically described sex acts from pornographic movies.
So I don't think that this is something that was directed at me personally. I think it was behavior that an individual felt that they could engage in. And I think that's generally true for sexual harassment.
In Washington, the president dismissed the allegations against his Supreme Court nominee.
Mr. President, are you concerned about the new charges against Judge Thomas?
Not the least. He still had my full confidence, obviously. And I view he will be and should be confirmed quickly.
When first told of the charges, no one on the Senate Judiciary Committee seemed concerned either.
It is an unpleasant issue. It's an ugly issue. And people don't want to deal with it generally, and in particular in this case.
Professor Hill told Nightline that in early September, she was contacted by the staffs of 2 committee members. Further, Hill told ABC News that she was not the one to bring up the topic of sexual harassment.
I have kept this to myself for all this time. I was not going to bring that issue to them. They came to me with that very issue.
Days after the initial contact, Hill called the full Judiciary Committee staff to give a statement about the alleged harassment. Subsequently, the FBI took statements from Hill, a corroborating witness, and from Clarence Thomas, who denied the charges. Members didn't see the FBI report until a day, some say hours, before the committee voted on the Thomas nomination. After receiving the FBI report, any member could have asked that the committee vote be delayed, but no one did. Senator Dennis DeConcini, the only committee Democrat to vote for Thomas, got into a testy exchange today about why he accepted Thomas's word over Hill's.
Anybody else?
Senator, you're making a decision here based on accepting his credibility over her credibility.
That's my job.
And yet you have had the opportunity to meet with Judge Thomas and listen to him over the course of a week, and you have not met with Ms. Hill. Do you feel comfortable making that judgment on 2 people?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Some senators now want Tuesday's confirmation vote on the floor delayed. Thomas supporters are crying foul.
It cannot be true that we are going to tolerate a situation where anybody who wants to throw the mud gets to throw the mud. And if it sticks, that's just wonderful. It cannot be the case.
Hill's account does raise troubling questions. Why, for example, did she wait 10 years to level the charges?
If you're sexually harassed, you ought to get mad about it, and you ought to do something about it, and you ought to complain. Instead of hanging around a long time, and then all of a sudden calling up anonymously and say, oh, I want to complain. I mean, where is the gumption?
Reliving this experience has, it has been really bad for me. I mean, I can't even describe. It was bad enough to experience it once.
Another question. If it was so traumatic, why did Hill accept another job with Thomas when he moved to the EEOC? Hill says Thomas had stopped harassing her and that she felt safe in moving with him to another agency. She also painted the picture of a vulnerable 25-year-old who wanted a career.
If I quit, I would have been jobless. I wanted to stay in civil rights. I thought I had something to add. And with hindsight, of course, now I can say that that was not the right decision.
An ABC News telephone survey of the Senate shows a majority of members still supporting the Thomas nomination, but there are increasing expressions of doubt from some Democrats. Even if Clarence Thomas is confirmed, the scandal has done some damage. It will certainly cloud the opening days of Thomas's tenure on the high court, and it will leave the Senate Judiciary Committee unable to answer the question of why it didn't fully investigate charges of sexual harassment when it had the chance. This is Jackie Judd for Nightline in Washington.
When we come back, we'll be joined by two members of the Judiciary Committee with sharply differing views on the Thomas nomination. Democratic Senator Paul Simon of Illinois and Republican Senator Alan Simpson of Wyoming. We'll also be joined by Nina Totenberg, the legal affairs correspondent for National Public Radio, who broke the story about the charges.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by the new Mazda.
In the right hands, even the most functional things can be art. So we asked a sculptor to design a new luxury sedan, the Mazda 929. And while it offers a generous list of safety features and amenities to comfort both mind and body, its richest rewards are for the soul. The new 929, the first luxury sedan from the new Mazda.
It just feels right.
We're flattered that after 60 years, people still get impatient for the natural whole grain goodness. Roman meal bread. Kind of proves we've had it right all along. Roman meal. Is that good?
I'm alive. Howard Weber.
I'm alive. Jessica Weber.
For a free list of cars with airbags, see your Allstate agent.
After a cough, you have to keep up with the latest medicine for your family. Like new Robitussin cough drops from the people whose cough medicine is recommended by more doctors and pharmacists.
Try this, it's new.
Robitussin cough drops have an active ingredient that speeds relief right to your cough to soothe and medicate.
Excuse me, try this. It's new.
New Robitussin cough drops. Cough drops from the cough experts.
My absolutely favorite age to take care of is teenagers. A lot of people see teenagers as these monsters living in their homes with them. When they're with their parents, it's like being a referee. And I have to have a rapport with them. I don't look down on them, and I wouldn't put them down. They can count on me for that. I really have fun working with teenagers, and I like sharing my day with them.
Kaiser Permanente, the health-caring people.
It's one of the strangest stories in all of show business. The genius of the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson. His family says he's now the prisoner of a greedy doctor. Primetime, Thursday.
Joining us from our Washington studios now are Senator Paul Simon, a Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, a Thomas opponent who wants Tuesday's vote delayed. Also, Republican Senator Alan Simpson of the committee, a Thomas supporter who says the vote should take place as scheduled. We're also joined by Nina Totenberg, the legal affairs correspondent of National Public Radio, who not only broke this story, but in 1987 broke the story that Supreme Court nominee Doug Ginsburg smoked marijuana. That caused his nomination to be withdrawn. Excuse me. Senator Simon, there's an impolite question circulating, and I might as well give you a chance to answer it. And it goes like this. You've called for a delay in the vote. These charges were known to you. The Democratic members of the committee were briefed. You had a chance to vote on the Thomas nomination. You had a chance to object to the scheduled floor vote. What's going on now? Why object now when you had the chance before?
Well, we have a different situation because the person who made the charges has surfaced. As long as there were charges just by unnamed people, it was very difficult to deal with those charges. Now this person has emerged. I talked to her on the telephone about a week ago. She seemed credible to me. I think her television performance today again indicates that she's credible. There's at least one person confirming confirming in part what she has to say. I don't think we should go ahead with a cloud over Judge Thomas, over the Supreme Court. I think we owe the people of the United States to delay just a few days to investigate this further.
But here's what's so puzzling. The members of the committee, particularly the opponents, hammered Judge Thomas on just about everything he wrote, said, or thought for the last 20 years. And yet this charge, which for many people is really, if true, disabling, it almost seems as if it wasn't considered serious enough to deal with until there was the scent of blood in the water.
Well, there were other things that I thought amply substantiated the decision I made to vote against him. What this charge is not only this charge of sexual harassment. I think this charge raises the question, a question that should be resolved, the question of credibility. Either she is telling the truth or he is telling the truth. They're both not telling the truth. And that is not resolved. And I think it ought to be resolved. Did he lie to the FBI? I don't know the answer to that.
Senator Simpson, I want to clear the decks on one thing, make sure I understand this. If Anita Hill's charge is true, we can get into the substance in a minute, would that reality, in other words, if it happened, would that be a disqualification for membership on the Supreme Court?
I don't know. All I know is what I've heard the lady say. This is going to be one of the saddest chapters in American journalism. This woman did not want it revealed as to who she was. Senator Simon, Paul, I've known for 20 years. He never voted for Clarence Thomas even in the last go-around. The people that are making the great fuss about this have been trying desperately to polish this guy off. And now this lady comes forward. Her name was known. Indeed, it was known about September 23rd. I refer all of you to the comments of our chairman, Joe Biden. The chronology of this woman and her participation finally lured to come forward. Please come forward. We will protect your name. And that very worthy soul then passed it on to Nina Totenberg. And I wonder really if she knows what she did in violating a confidence which is also against the Senate rules, and violating what, if you did that with a rape victim or someone else, would be absolutely appalling.
Well,
You've blown the cover of a person on a sexual harassment charge that supposedly happened 8 to 10 years ago.
Senator, just for the record, I talked to Ms. Hill earlier tonight, and her big concern, or her disappointment, was that the committee didn't follow through on what she regarded as serious charges. And I need to bring this back to the substance for a moment, please.
Let's do.
It almost seems as if one of the accusations going around now about why the committee took no action is it was an all-male committee, and frankly, they didn't think it was that serious. What I'm asking is, if the charges are true, isn't it something the committee should either nail down, clear the slate so Judge Thomas's name can be cleared, or if it's true, get him in a position where he can't be on the court?
Well, that's the trouble with this kind of stuff. If you state yourself clearly and authentically, you face charges of sexism or racism and all sorts of bugaboos. Let's just keep right on the level here. This lady has communicated with Clarence Thomas regularly since this happened. Now that is the truth, and that's going to be very clearly known. In fact, we've cataloged some things that are rather striking. They're called facts. She followed him at every point in his career. She kept track of him when she was at the University of Oklahoma, appeared with him there. 10 phone calls she has made, and they're documented between the year of 84 and 88, and one of them was to wish Clarence well on his marriage to Ginny. Now, how about that, gang?
All right,
Come on, let's get with it.
Nina Totenberg, how about that? Since your sources seem to be, well, I don't know, better than some of the members of the committee.
Why should they be better?
Well, if I may, I want to maybe explore that toward the end.
I'd love to know.
But Nina, can you clear the decks on at least this issue? Was Miss Hill eager to see these charges aired in public once she made contact with the committee?
As far as I know, she was. And as far as I know, the Judiciary Committee has not displayed what might be called an eagerness to investigate this or other charges. What is striking to me is so often that we hear from Senator Simpson and others, they bemoan the fact that reporters get leaks, get information, aggressively pursue information, when in fact, if the official branches of government which were responsible for this, the executive and the legislative branches, did their jobs appropriately, we wouldn't have to get leaks.
Well,
we wouldn't have to be pursuing aggressively information. Now, the alleged victim in this case, Ms. Hill, claims that the Judiciary Committee did not take her seriously, told her different things at different times. In fact, that she had to call the committee rather than be called by the committee after being initially contacted and being told that the committee would contact her. They didn't, and then she had to come forward again, and that repeatedly she was let down. That's what she says. I have to say that my information is further, that there probably would not have even been an FBI investigation if at least some senators on the committee had not heard about this from staff and pitched a fit.
Senator Simpson, you want to briefly come back?
You know, that's just not true. Joe Biden has issued a chronology of what happened with this woman. I want you to read it. I hope you'll do that.
I've done that, Senator.
What politicians get tired of is bias in reporters. You've been beating the drum on this one almost every day since it started in the most extraordinary way. Let's not pretend you're objective in here. That just would be absurd. Now, that's my view about your reporting of this issue. Now, go back and ask, wait till this all pops, and you're going to find the saddest thing of all that you won't believe. You will have destroyed this woman. I have affidavits here, sworn affidavits, been coming into the fax machine, people that hired her, the former dean of the law school at Oral Roberts who said it was preposterous and a fantasy.
Well, why?
Plus the fact, just one please, at the bar convention in Atlanta in August,
Senator,
she came up to people, and said,
Senator, you've attacked me. May I respond?
I'm not being mean, I'm being truthful.
Senator,
I have the affidavits here.
Senator,
let me give Nina Totenberg a brief response.
Go right
ahead.
ahead.
I'd like to get a word in, Jeff.
After the break.
I too don't want to be the messenger who's blamed. All I do is report. I don't know who's telling the truth here. There are inconsistencies on all sides.
That's right.
But I do know that I do not appreciate being blamed just because I do my job and report the news.
I don't care.
Excuse me,
you know,
Senator.
I didn't ask you to
Senator,
appreciate. I'm asking about affidavits.
Senators, this is force majeure. I'm going to give Senator Simon a chance to get in. I'm going to give you a chance. We'll give everybody a chance within the limits of commercial television when we continue our discussion in a moment.
10 years. His hair is a little thinner.
I don't remember her looking so beautiful.
Not bad. Fine ex-jock. Hello, stranger.
I'm hardly a stranger.
Well, you are late.
I know. You shouldn't have waited 10 years for this. Happy anniversary. The Diamond Anniversary Band. Tell her you'd marry her all over again.
You sure can pick an appetizer.
Ford Motor Company profiles in quality, employee involvement.
If you're working together, you do a better job. I said that back in '82, and the quality of our cars and trucks is proof that it's working today.
Money alone won't build quality cars. You've got to have better designs.
Better designs don't mean a thing, unless engineering can live up to the designs.
Engineering works only when everyone is committed to quality.
Our goal is to build the highest quality cars and trucks in the world.
At Ford, quality is job one.
A recent university study confirms something that has millions of asthma sufferers breathing easier. Clinical tests showed Primatene tablets help keep asthma sufferers breathing freely for hours. Primatene tablets, with the asthma reliever doctors recommend.
My hemorrhoids hurt so much, I was afraid I needed surgery.
But my doctor said they weren't serious, and it's time I used Preparation H.
Preparation H helps shrink swelling of inflamed hemorrhoidal tissues and often relieves pain, itching, and burning for hours. Doctor recommended Preparation H.
Not every bird you see at your grocery store is a fresh Oregon-grown chicken. Some are out-of-state birds, which come from thousands of miles away. To make the trip, they may be frozen solid, then days later left to thaw and labeled fresh, right alongside Oregon fryers, which can go from farm to store in just one day. So for the freshest chicken, look for the Grown in Oregon label. Without it, you could be getting a totally different breed of bird.
At the Men's Warehouse, Navy blazers just $119. Lamb's wool sport coats, $139. Designer double-breasted, $189. Our prices will have you beside yourself. We guarantee it.
The Salem RV Show this weekend only. 20 statewide dealers, hundreds of RVs sale price. Opens noon daily at the Salem Fairgrounds, produced by Westlake Promotion.
Start your day prepared with Channel 2 News this morning, weekdays at 6.
Finally, someone finds out who Dan Quayle really is.
Anything you'd like to say to Jay Leno or Johnny Cross?
Watch 2020 Friday.
Tomorrow, our series, The Healthy Woman, is PMS real or imagined?
Then when is having the blues fun? Just ask B.B. King.
Here on Good Morning America tomorrow.
Continuing this frank and open exchange of views with Senator Paul Simon of Illinois, Senator Alan Simpson of Wyoming, and Nina Totenberg of National Public Radio, who was a long shot to become Senator Simpson's next press secretary. Senator Simon, you wanted in on this, please.
Yes, I was trying to squeeze in a word here.
I give up.
Senator Simpson talks about all the loose ends and the inconsistencies, and there are loose ends. There are inconsistencies. Why don't we straighten these things out, have an investigation, find out what's going on? What is the rush to confirm someone who will be on the Supreme Court for 30 or 40 years? Why not delay just a few days?
But
Senator Simpson also talks about the victim, and I am concerned about Senator Hill, and Professor Hill. But I'm also concerned that the people of this nation will be the victims if we put the wrong person on the United States Supreme
Senator,
Court.
this is why the criticism of the committee, I think, was so loud today. Tuesday's New York Times, a no conservative mouthpiece, has an editorial which says, among other things, that the indifference to this charge shames the committee. I mean, how could it be that the committee has had weeks of hearings and testimony, and now, literally at the 11th hour, you're saying, well, we better delay?
Well, the 11th hour because the person who made the charge came forward with her name. Now, maybe there are other ways of handling it, but frankly, with these kind of charges, when the person is unwilling to come out publicly, it's a very, very difficult thing to handle.
Senator Simpson, I'm going to take another shot at this. You are one of the more skilled debaters in the Senate and on TV, but the substance of the charge, I can't help but get the feeling that there are a lot of women out there in particular who look at this all-male committee in a virtually all-male Senate and say, we know why nobody raised these charges. They thought it was boys will be boys.
No, that's a crude statement. That's a sexist, guilt-ridden statement. We are people that have spouses and daughters and mothers. You know, I think that's a really cheap shot. Let me tell you, we did look at it, and we knew this woman's name. This woman's name was presented. That's how we got the FBI report. And the FBI put together a folio, and we read it, and when we found the name of the person that she said what, it was all hearsay. I can tell you it is. Someday it will all come to pass, and in the report was an actual name of the man, of a Democrat senator's staff, that contacted this woman to say, you know, come forward. She said, I don't want to come forward, and then go look at the convoluted process she went through, trying to protect herself, all of it blown. And one of the serious rights of any person in society, and journalists are to recognize it, is to recognize the dignity and privacy of people and not crow about blowing the cover of this woman who will never recover from it.
Senator, I must say before I get an assessment from Nina Totenberg, that I know people who have been, I think, legitimately claimed to have been victimized by sexual harassment, almost to a woman. They talk about how difficult it is to talk about, how they just let it go because it wasn't worth it. Can't we credit Miss Hill with possibly having gone through that same experience?
Jeff, I wouldn't ever want to challenge her sincerity. I'm saying to you that these are things that can destroy both ways. That's all I'm saying. And we have the evidence and affidavits that this woman continued to contact Clarence Thomas socially. Even at the American Bar Convention in August, she went to their friends and said, "Isn't it great about Clarence? I'm so pleased for him." Now, come on.
Okay.
This is absurd.
Nina, we're down to our last minute. Give us a repertorial assessment. Are we in a position where the vote could go either way tomorrow, or is confirmation still the likely outcome?
I think confirmation is still the likely outcome, but the vote is teetering on the brink, I think, and it's very close. I do want to say that this is a very serious charge, and that there is always the possibility that someone can make this kind of a charge, and it's not true, and it can ruin a reputation. And that's why reporters have to be careful before they allow it to go into print or onto the airwaves, and I think I was very careful in this case.
Oh, I think you're going to find out you're terribly wrong.
Let me finish, Senator.
Surely.
But I think also that the committee could have done other things. Did Chairman Biden speak to her? Did they send investigators to talk to every person that had worked, every woman that had worked for Clarence Thomas before? Did they follow the investigative tactics that are used typically by the EEOC in checking on this kind of a complaint? The answer to those, I think, is no.
Nina and Senator Simpson and Senator Simon, Ms. Totenberg, let me be equal in this. I want to thank you all for coming up tonight. The vote is at 6 p.m. on Tuesday on the confirmation of Clarence Thomas. And we will be back in a moment with a program note.
Dina DeLuca, are you waiting longer for overseas calls to connect? Latino Chicago Theater Company, are you saving less than you'd hoped on international calls since you left AT&T? We want you back. AT&T Pro Watts. Competitive prices on international calls, plus our new Favorite Nation 10% discount. Switch now and get 1 month of long distance free. We want you back. Call 1-800-222-0900.
This is our vision of what a luxury sedan should be. Not because it offers rich leather and anti-lock brakes, but because it comes standard with an airbag on the driver's side and the passenger side as well. Creating a luxury sedan where even peace of mind is shared. The new 929. The first luxury sedan from the new Mazda. It just feels right.
You know, recycling has given trash a whole new meaning.
That's the idea, John.
This Rubbermaid 32-gallon trash can is $8.44. And after rebate, GE Soft White light bulbs are $1.99 a pack.
Does that make garbage garbage?
Beats me.
I'm alive. Howard Weber.
I'm alive. Jessica Weber.
For a free list of cars with airbags, see your Allstate agent.
Where did they get the money to buy that?
Where did they get the money to do that?
There will be a complete report on the battle over the Thomas nomination tomorrow on World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, and later on Nightline. That's our report for tonight. I'm Jeff Greenfield in New York, and for all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This has been Nightline. If you wish